Hello, mystics. Welcome to our class on angel numbers and numerology. I am particularly excited for this class because it is something that I have taken a great interest in over the years. And now I finally have some true and genuine clarity. So let's start our presentation. So angel numbers we see all over the place. It's that 111, 444, people are wearing it on their necklaces. What does it mean? Where did they come from? We're going to dive into it today. So before we can even talk about angel numbers, we need to understand what numerology is, because angel numbers are part of a numerological system. So numerology has various different systems, but today we're going to be focusing on the Pythagorean theorem. So numerology is a belief system that assigns symbolic meanings to numbers and their combinations, like 111, 222, etc. This is suggesting that numbers carry vibrations and energies that influence aspects of your life. This can include personality traits, relationships, and events. Numerologists also believe that by understanding these patterns, you can actually gain insight into your life and make informed decisions. So the practice of numerology is encompassed in both ancient and modern traditions, as we will see. There'll be a nice little timeline on the next slide. But let's be straight up and honest. Basically, numerology hasn't changed so much since around 4000 BCE with Pythagoras and the Kabbalists. So Kabbalah, for those of you who are not familiar, are a sect of Jewish mystics. And we know that they probably started around 5000 or 4000 BCE, but it wasn't until 570 BCE in ancient Greece where Pythagoras created his cult, and we start to see numerology really take shape. And as you'll see here, the majority of the people on this chart are men, except for like 2 or 3 of them. So we see the basics of Pythagoras getting recapitulated over and over again. We can assume that Pythagoras got a lot of his information from the Kabbalists, because during that time period, the adepts or masters of religion actually exchanged information. So ancient Egyptians talked to the ancient Greeks talked to the ancient Hindus. There's some evidence that suggests they even talked to ancient Taoists all the way in China. So it's not unbelievable to think that they spoke to ancient rabbis in the Middle East. We have Plato. Plato didn't actually write a whole lot of his own. He wrote ideas of others, particularly Socrates. But Plato also has a lot of ideas about numbers. We'll get into that on the next slide. St. Augustine de Hippo, or of Hippo, he was a Christian mythologist who took Kabbalah and made it Christian. So Cornelius Agrippa von Nettersheim, he is the guy who wrote the big 3 books of occult philosophy. And this is where we start to see numerology get a little bit of a facelift, because it gets popularized with John Dee, and you get Enochian magic that's born at this time. Moving up into the 1800s, we get a second facelift with Eliphas Levi, who was also a Kabbalist, L. Dow Ballot, and that is a pseudonym for a woman, and Florence Campbell. So these women in the 1800s, around the spiritual movement, right after the Civil War, we start to see numerology take a new lift. People are searching for meaning, especially after wartime. And then we move up into the 2000s, where we have Doreen Virtue, the creator of angel numbers, and in the 2000s, and Hans Decoys, who I'm not familiar with, but apparently is a very popular numerologist. So let's talk about Pythagoras. So here he is over here. We'll talk about this cube he's holding. It's above here as well. This is a very important part of numerology. I have half of it tattooed on me because it is the basis of foundation, according to Pythagoras. So all this information comes from the Manly P. Hall lecture notes. Otherwise, you're just pulling a lot of information from various sources. Pythagoras didn't leave us a lot of written information, so we pull from other sources. But essentially, Pythagoras believed that numbers were mystical. He believed that they actually existed, like out in the universe somewhere. So did Plato. Now, he believed that they existed on what's called the like he calls it the forms, which is essentially the astral plane. So numbers represented an underlying order of harmony in the universe, and that numbers allowed the bridge between the material and the spiritual realms. So he also created something that you probably learned in high school, which is the Pythagorean theorem. I don't use that anymore. I don't think anybody does. So the other important part of the numerology that Pythagoras created was not just for divination. It was also for music. It is through his doctrine here that we start to see like music really take shape in different ways. By cutting certain numbers in half, notes, you get flat notes or sharp notes. And this was a huge development. There is a really great little clip that I have on my TikTok of Disney from Donald and Mathemagic Land, where he meets Pythagoras. And you see that it is through numbers that he creates music and sound, which is quite beautiful. So the numbers that Pythagoras really cared about are 1 through 10. If you studied the tarot symbology lecture, it's almost exactly the same. So we're going to go over this a little bit fast because we're going to talk about, this is about angel numbers, not about Pythagoras. But number 1 is literally the monad, meaning that is all of creation. Like God is in number 1. It is the unit of life. Number 2 is duality, right? So we have a separation, light, dark, hot, cold, left, right. So number 3 represents family. It represents 2 people coming together, creating a third. 4 is the most sacred number, according to Pythagoras. It is also a sacred number for the Native Americans and some tribes. This can be attributed to the 4 elements. This can be attributed to the Kabbalists and the 4 names of God. Then we go into number 5, which is a very special alchemical number because it represents the pentagram. So representing the 5-pointed star. Kabbalists with the C, the Christian Kabbalists, will say that represents the 5 wounds of Christ. Number 6 represents creation and the 6 days of creation. I guess God rested on the 7th day. And then 7 is God's number. It is like the number that is loved by God because it is perfect. I think that has to do with the fact that it's a prime number. 8 is a symbol of motion. 9 is what he calls the last leap before regeneration. It is the perfect flower, the perfect animal. It is perfection within the material world. And then number 10, he believes, is the fulfillment of the cycle. So again, very, very similar to tarot in that way. So Pythagoras believed that the numbers were building blocks of the universe. It's very interesting if you think of like the binary code, like 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. It's kind of similar in that way, except it goes all the way up to 10. So every number was ascribed significance, and it was believed that the universe would express itself through math. Now, it's important to understand that mathematics came from astronomy, not astrology. So the study of the stars gave information and knowledge to the ancients to express the understanding of numerology through numbers. A good example of this over here is this the seed or the star of life. Gematria. So Gematria comes from the ancient Kabbalists, but it also has an ancient Greek perspective. We are going to be practicing Gematria later today. So this is the idea that every number has like a letter corresponding, and you'll see that on the next page. So the alphabet gets analyzed and given numbers. And what you do is you take your name or whatever you want, especially in the Bible. This is where the Bible code comes from. And you can interpret sacred literature. You can take your name, your birthday, all kinds of stuff, and be able to break it down into numerological values that are interconnected with meanings, relationships to God, to the universe, to nature. It is a very sacred system, and there are variations of it too. So there's the ancient Hebrew system, there's the ancient Greek system, and the modern system, which we're going to be using today. Here we're going to be talking about the tetrix, or I'm going to call it the decade because that's easier for me. So over here we see the decade. So this is partly relating to, again, music and the creation of music. So this is also a tarot spread that I use that gets broken down. So at the top of it represents unity. We break down into two, which represents like your unconscious, your conscious mind. Here it represents the power. Here's the triad, which is harmony. And then the four underneath, the cosmos, or the four elements. And so this was a huge deal in ancient Greece because it was considered to be the assembly point, the symbol between heaven and earth. Numbers were then seen as like this combination that could give you access to the heavens, right? Because it came from astronomy. I love this. We could go into this so much more. We're going to do a very brief overview today because now we're going to get into the actual numerology. So Pythagoras gave us some ideas of ways that we could find meaning and purpose through our life path number. So your life path, you're going to need either a piece of paper or you can just use your phone. It's up to you. And the way that we do this is by adding together the digits of your day, your month, and your year. And the goal is to reduce it to a single number unless it is 11 or 22. Those are considered to be like master numbers, meaning you don't reduce them any further. So for example, let's say somebody was born on June 15th of 1990. We would then add 6 for June, 1 plus 5, plus 1, plus 9, 9, plus 0. This person would get the answer of 31. We do 3 plus 1 equals 4. So 4 would be their life path number. So I'm going to give you a minute to do that and calculate your own. I know mine already, but I'm excited to. We'll go through the answers for those people who are here, and we will see what your answer is. Awesome. All right, let's see what we've got here. 4. All right, so we're going to go to numerologist.com and we're going to look up the life path of number 4. So 4s are pillars of their communities. The individuals are hardworking, practical, trustworthy, make fantastic marriage, and business partners, mentors, and teachers. They are very resourceful and can be called upon in a crisis. We love when we can trust that. However, you're a little bit over self-sacrificing. So we can even discover more here. There's so much you can go into your life path. Now, I did do a lot of research. I do trust this website. I know it's a little bit like modern and sleek, but it does have a lot of really good information. You do see here that you are loyal and you're trustworthy. Oh, this is great. I love this. River, here are your shadows. Okay. You can be very stubborn at times, showing that you lack spontaneity. Okay. You are at risk of developing a martyr-like attitude. Others may get so used to you rebuking them, rebuking their offers for help, they stop showing up for you. Aw. Whoops. And so here it talks about like compatibility, of course. Let's see, so who are some of the famous people? I'm curious, who else has Oprah, Russell Crowe, Woody Allen, and Quentin Tarantino? Wow. All right. Definitely could see some of those like Taurus aspects, especially four. Four is ruled by Taurus. Makes sense. So my life path is 7. The mystic and the seeker, surprise, surprise, right? Your personal journey is to find the deepest truth. Yes, we know that. So ideally being able to be a deep thinker, very sensitive, so sensitive, just the water sign stuff. And then it tells me that I'm also very practical. I can work a lot with my hands, which is true. I love reading and researching. It's like my favorite thing to do. Yes. So let's see, what's my shadow stuff? Ooh, over analyzing, analysis paralysis, procrastination, not so much anymore. Perceive you as aloof, shy, or socially awkward. I think I've worked through that a lot in my life. Trusting your own opinions may pose problems. Ooh, I should look more into that. Oh yes, always listen to other people. Absolutely. So this is one aspect of life path. This is your life path number. There's so much that you can learn from it. You can find like what jobs you're suited for, etc. So this is a popular modern day numerology system. We're going to do another one. Your destiny number. So this is where we're going to use Gatria. So you're going to need to calculate your full birth name. So that's your middle and first and last name. So I did Meghan Markle underneath here. So Meghan Markle, if we add up all of her numbers, we get 83. So 8 plus 3 is 11. And we don't reduce it further because that is her master number. Super cool. I have not done this one for myself. So let's take a look. I think my mundane name is so boring. I think Ashley's such a basic name, but let's find out. Yes, you can use preferred names too, because the way that this works, it's how you like react to the name, right? So if you go by that name, you can change your destiny, which is really cool. That comes from the Kabbalists as well, like the way that the vibration of your name does affect you. Crazy stuff. And we can talk about the Kabbalist name stuff in a little bit. That I wasn't expecting to talk about that, but that stuff is so interesting. Okay, so now that we've taken some time to do our work and figure out what our numbers are, we're going to look at the answers again on numerology. You best express yourself by creating prosperity. Oh, you have a natural knack for making money? That's super cool. Excellent bankers, stockbrokers, accountants. That's super cool. Let's see. You can be very charismatic. You have a lot of offer of financial freedom here. You also have a strong sense of ethics, which is great. We love that. We love someone who's ethical. We've got business owners, entrepreneurs, managers. Is there a negative side? It can be very overbearing, controlling, or greedy if you're not in your highest power. Okay. That is super cool. So another example of this that you can do is the Kabbalist name. Oh, it makes you put in your last name. I'm not going to do that live, but this is such a fun website to do. You can learn so much. Like it talks about your health regarding like what weaknesses that you have. For me, I have really weak sinuses, and it actually comes up really directly in this reading that I got done here. It also talks about, again, what's the best job for you. That is so cool. Thank you for sharing with us. And so my life path was number 5. Back up here to number 5. There we go. Very highly inquisitive individuals who consider hands-on experience to be the best teacher in life. They're deeply intelligent, philosophical, and spiritually minded. Writers, teachers, historians, anthropologists. Very cool. Oh, but I can be very self-absorbed. Yes, I could be, but I've been working through that in my life. Avoidance of commitment can keep deep and loyal bonds from forming. Yeah, I guess that's true too. I have like a very deep need for freedom with all that Aquarius in my chart. So you can have a lot of fun when it comes to numerology and learning about yourself and the things that you're best suited for by, again, looking at your name, breaking it down into these living numbers and understanding how their vibration affects you in your everyday life. So now we're going to start diving into the angel number aspect of this. There is no mention anywhere, not in Manly P. Hall work. I went through some of my old religion books. There is nowhere that Pythagoras had a unique or distinct view about repeating numbers like 111, 222. It's very modern. And that was popularized by a woman named Doreen Virtue. She's a very prominent figure in the New Age who recently renounced everything. And now she says it's all demonic and evil. Well, we'll watch her and see what she has to say about that. So these repetitive sequences are known as angel numbers, which are believed to be messages sent from the divine guardians to help you along your life path. So part 2, the angel numbers. So as we talked about, it has to do with a repeating set of numbers. Now, there is some psychological bias to this, that if you start seeing a certain number like 1111, that you'll start seeing it more and more over time. It is something to think about here. But it is also, according to the creator, Doreen Virtue, that these are messages that are being carried from the universe in order to assist us. The thing is that they're very loosely based on Pythagoras, but as we'll see in her video, there's not a whole lot of sciencey, occult science that goes into this. So a lot of what she says in her book that is out of print, and it's kind of hard to get, Angel Numbers 101, is that the interpretations of angel numbers are influenced by your personal beliefs, your intuition, and spiritual teachings, which means there's not really a very defined aspect to these numbers, unlike Pythagoras, who gave us like a very cut and dry meaning. So people will interpret these angel numbers based on personal experiences, based on the context that's going around in their lives, in order to gain clarity on their perception. I do believe this is possible. I do believe that your intuition, your unconscious mind, will show you things based on your belief system. I don't personally think angel numbers are all bullshit, but that is up for you to decide. So one of the biggest things about understanding angel numbers is the context that they're showing up in your life. You have to be self-aware. What is going on in my job? What's going on in my relationships? Why am I seeing this number, and how does it correlate to things that are happening in my life? So most oftentimes people start recognizing these patterns when they're under an extreme amount of stress, when they have to make a decision they're not ready to make. And this can be, again, what's that word? Like a biased belief, or like you are, oh, I forgot the word. Hold on. Oh, it's not coming to me. It's like a bias. You can like kind of trick yourself into thinking a certain context. That's why it's always important to divinate. I think that if you really do want to use angel numbers, I think using them in conjunction with divination is going to be the best. Our thoughts and our feelings are not magic. That's part of our body. And by going outside of ourselves into the universe and reflecting through self-reflection will give us better understanding of angel numbers as they appear in our life. Which means we want to also take into consideration writing things down. So we'll get into that. Recording is so important when it comes to angel numbers. When it comes to combining numerological meanings, some people ask me, like, what is like 911 mean? Which I think is just emergency, but like the example I gave here was 252. So in my opinion, if you're getting mixed numbers like this, you want to go back to the Pythagorean ideas, go back to the basics and look at the interpretation of those numbers individually, and then put the message together to understand what's going on. So 2 represents balance and partnership, duality, and 5 represents change, transformation, or alchemy. So when you see that sequence 252, we can put it together that a transformation needs to be made in your relationships. Writing down your experience. Oh my gosh, I cannot emphasize how important this is, because you need to track over time. Just like a science, right? Like we need to take documented records, data of our experiences here. So by doing this, you will actually be able to create your own meaning of what these angel numbers mean in your life, and not just have to refer to like the vagueness that comes from, as you'll see, some of Doreen Virtue's work. It's also important to write down your feelings, your thoughts, your actions. Give the context to what's going on when you're experiencing an angel number. That way, it will be so much easier for you to create the meaning and not just, again, have to rely so vaguely on other people's interpretations, which is not ultimately very helpful. Oh, there were subtitles.
Before
Okay.
I was saved, I was the one who originated the whole concept of angel numbers, not numerology, but angel numbers. I actually coined and came up with the phrase angel numbers originally in 2004. So as I'm filming this, that was 20 years ago in 2004 that I came up with the name angel numbers. And I'm horrified at how many people are using that name and that practice now. So I'm here to please warn you and others that it was a big mistake. It was like a Frankenstein that I was a part of back then that is spiritually dangerous, and we should have nothing to do with it now. My old book, Angel Numbers, praise the Lord, it's out of print now. Please don't buy it. If you've got it, burn it or throw it away, because it's spiritually dangerous, as are any books or apps or materials or videos that say that they are teaching angel numbers.
We'll talk about that.
Because I was the one that coined the phrase angel numbers, and I feel horrible about it. I've repented to God. I apologize to anyone who's been deceived, because I passed that deception along unknowingly. I didn't know I was deceived. I was talking with spirits. I thought they were God's angels, but they were demons, I know now. And so here's the 4 reasons why I just ask that nobody use angel numbers, please, anymore. First, the reason is the origin of angel numbers. As I said, I coined that phrase angel numbers in 2004 after I got into numerology because of a very realistic dream that I had. I thought it was with my grandmother Pearl, but I now know, looking back, that it was with a demon posing as my grandmother Pearl, leading me into further deception, pointing me to study Egyptian Hermeticism, Pythagorean, and metaphysical and occultic practices. And so my grandmother Pearl would have never done that. Only a demon pretending to be her would have fooled me like that. And that's what led to my study of numerology. And then this is even crazier about the origin of angel numbers. At the time my children were living with me, it was a great time. I didn't have any place to go meditate. I was doing New Age meditation, not biblical meditation. New Age meditation is where it's contemplative. You just listen, and it's very dangerous. I wouldn't do it now. We do biblical meditation where we only meditate on God's word, the Bible. But I was meditating back then in our bathroom because it was the only place I could get away and have some quiet. And so I went into the bathroom and I prayed a prayer of protection, which never works when you are sinning against God's commandments, which I was at that moment unknowingly. And I prayed to get information about number patterns that I had been noticing on license plates and receipts and phone numbers and such. And so sitting there in the bathroom as a unsaved, heretical, blasphemous new ager, I was getting these thoughts about what these different numbers meant. They were loosely based on numerology, but they were mostly based on this information being transmitted to me by what I now know are demons. So that should be enough of a red flag for anyone who cares that we shouldn't be involved with angel numbers. The whole idea of angel numbers seems like you're deciphering some secret code. But Genesis 3 in the Bible shows that humanity has a strong and sinful desire for secret wisdom. And that's how humanity got into trouble in the first place. Instead of being satisfied with God's word, the Bible, which is sufficient, there's this sinful desire we have to try to go outside of the Bible, or we listen to the lies that the Bible's corrupted. Yellow Honda cars everywhere you go, and you think it must be a sign. Well, that's the human mind trying to interpret signs and omens, which is an absolute forbidden practice. We can see that in Deuteronomy 18, 10 through 12. And why? Because we're trying to get some sort of meaning, some sort of personal private revelation that could lead us in the wrong direction. That's selective attention. And
That's the term I was looking for, selective attention.
it's the same way with these so-called angel numbers, which I regrettably invented.
So we get the idea here that she is very distraught with what she made. I'm not going to comment on her journey. You know, everyone is entitled to the exploration of spirit in any way that she wants, but she even admits, like, there are some, she doesn't find it to be a very good system. I think the system is okay. I think you can make it a lot better though, right? Like, instead of just working and worrying about someone else's interpretation of the number, focusing on your interpretation. So like, as we talked about here, keeping a record of your experience. When are those numbers coming up in your life? What are the patterns? And then I always like to go back to Pythagoras, for example. So it did take me a while. I did not find the original book, but I did find a PDF online of Doreen Virtue's Angel Numbers 101. So we're going to go through their meanings. I think they're a little bit vague, honestly, but you know, be up to you. So 000 means God is talking to you. When you see 0, it is a sign of the endless circle of Omega, beginning without beginning or end. God is trying to get your attention. So I did my own little interpretation underneath. Is that 000 or 3 or 4, it doesn't matter, whatever the sequence is a reminder of the interconnectedness of all things and the potential for new beginnings. It encourages embracing the endless opportunities that life has to offer. It also means understanding your place within the large cosmic order of the world. 111, according to Doreen Virtue, this number brings you an urgent message that your thoughts are manifesting instantly. So keep your mind focused upon your desires and give any fearful thoughts to heaven for transmutation. My interpretation is 111 frequently reminds you to focus on positive things. Sure, there's a potential for things to be manifesting because 1 is also the card of the magician. So be mindful of your inner dialogue. Harness your thoughts so they can be created into a desired reality. 222. So 2 represents partnerships. Trust that everything is working out exactly as it is supposed to, according to Doreen Virtue, with divine blessings for everyone involved. My interpretation is that 222 serves as a reminder to trust the process. Having faith that everything will work out as it should is encouraging you to maintain balance in your life. Remember, we have that duality, hot and cold, black and white. And of course, to foster harmonious relationships. 333, the 3 or the family, you are completely surrounded, protected, and loved and guided by the benevolent ascended masters. If you're not familiar with what ascended masters are, there's a lot of them. You really find that information coming from the early 1900s in Theosophy, which is like that book right here and that book right there. So 333, according to my interpretation, is expanding your horizons, asking for divine assistance for your personal growth, and encouraging yourself for spiritual development. And definitely, you could be supported by other higher powers at this time. 444. So remember, this was Pythagoras' favorite number, the most sacred number. Angels are everywhere around you. They are completely loving and supportive. They're guiding you. There are many heavenly beings. There's nothing to fear, according to Doreen Virtue. So 444 encourages perseverance and trust in your journey, knowing there are divine forces at play. 555. Huge changes are coming through your life. Remember, 5 is the number of alchemy. So to keep these changes in the highest course possible, be sure to keep your thoughts positive and stay centered, according to Doreen Virtue. This is an opportunity to embrace change with an open heart and an open mind, encouraging flexibility and adaptability, understanding that these changes are for your personal growth and the greater good. 666 is not an evil number. We could get into so much of that if you're interested at the end. 666, according to Doreen Virtue, is your thoughts are too focused on material illusions. Raise your thoughts spiritually and get your life back on track. I interpret this as a reminder to reassess your priorities and focus on nurturing the relationship between spirit and yourself. I'm finding an equilibrium between your material life and your spiritual life, always about balance. 777, the lucky number. According to Doreen Virtue, you are on the right path. Stay balanced and spiritually aware so that you can continue to move forward on your illuminated path. My interpretation of this is that on your spiritual path, you are guided towards understanding, towards knowledge, and it's going to deepen your connection to the universe. 888, a very auspicious sign for financial support. In her video, if you ever wanted to watch the whole thing, she talks about how they worshiped the number 8. 8 is a very special number, and it, in my interpretation here, is about being open to the flow of abundance, but more importantly, the mindset of gratitude and finding a harmony within your own spiritual life. A lot of that, you see that over and over again, that same kind of meaning. 999. It signifies the completion of an important chapter in your life. Get back to work without procrastination on building your next chapter. Think of this as like an alarm clock. When I interpret this, I see it as it's an opportunity to let go of what no longer serves you and to prepare space for a new phase. You must close one door in order to open another. This sequence embraces endings as opportunities and new beginnings. So here are some of the resources that I used. So we have some great Medium articles, and then Pythagoras. This was a paper from a research student, obviously the Doreen Virtue book, her YouTube, decoding numbers, and then of course the Manly P. Hall pamphlet. So regardless of whatever you think of angel numbers, they're incredibly interesting. They are a little bit new age, and it's important to remember that. I don't think you should completely discount angel numbers. I think that there is meaning behind them, but it's important that you create that own meaning, your own meaning for yourself. So you're not just reliant on what someone said who just renounced all of their work. And overall, I think numbers in general are a very important part of our life. And so even though that angel numbers, the way that maybe we want to interpret them, are not as cut and dry as we would like to be, they definitely have a significant power in our lives. So thank you so much for coming.